Hello. Today we are going to be talking about the negative psychological effects of social media. My name is David Dry, and here we go. So first, we are going to start off with the history of social media. So social media is honestly, it's very new. It didn't start coming around until basically the early 2000s, whenever it really started to take off. At the turn of the 21st century, the first social media app was actually created in 1997. But it really didn't become relevant, I guess you could say, until the early to late 2000s. In that period, and it's just continued to grow and evolve. We have huge platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok. All of these apps are just exploding. You have millions and even billions of users on some of these platforms, and it's just crazy to see all of these people coming together and basically meeting through one single platform. So it's really pretty cool when you think about it like that. You get an opportunity to socialize and meet with so many different people. But let's get into these effects. All right, here we go. So we are going to start off with the correlation that social media has with things such as depression, anxiety, and psychological distress. So there's a very strong correlation. Now, there hasn't of social media and depression, anxiety, psychological distress, etc. Very strong correlation. Now, there hasn't been necessarily enough years of research or enough extensive studies to show that is causation of these things, but there's a very strong correlation. And so, yeah, that's kind of what we are going to go off of as we progress through this. So, on this next slide, I decided to make a personal survey. So I made a survey, typed out some questions, posted it on my Snapchat. It's kind of ironic that we're talking about the negative effects of social media, and I actually use social media to help create this survey or help get responses for the survey. But anyways, the questions that I asked was, how long on average do you spend on social media apps per day? And the different categories were 0 to 1 hours, 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, and 3+ hours. And as you can see here, we have over 50% saying that they spend 3+ hours on social media per day. And then 51 plus 29, what is that? Like 80% of people are 2+ hours. So you can see that social media is a huge factor in our lives. And I'm pretty sure everybody who says 0 to 1, they're lying. They're lying because look, they literally responded to this survey using social media. I'm just not buying it. But anyways, the next question is, do you think many of the world's problems could be solved by the ban of social media? And this one was kind of funny to me because as we continue to progress through these questions, you'll see that everybody basically says that their life would be improved, their quality of life would be improved if they didn't have social media. But it was, almost split 50-50 on do you think many of the world's problems could be solved by the ban of social media? We can see like about 54% to 46%. So, it's relatively close, but then we look down here and see, do you believe social media has an overall negative impact on your psychological well-being? And it's an overwhelming yes. There's about 76% to 24% ratio there of people who think that social media does have a negative psychological effect. Then we have, do you think that people's joy and satisfaction in life would be better with or without social media? And you probably can't see because my head's in the way, but a lot of these 82.6% said without social media. Their joy and satisfaction in life would go up, by obviously a lot with those responses to the survey. So that's a very interesting. Whenever I was looking at that, I was very surprised, or not necessarily surprised, but it was interesting to see people's ideas. Now here's a continuation of that survey. And on this one, I asked, would you consider yourself addicted to social media? And 59.8% of people said yes. And that's crazy. Okay, so if we're looking 219 responses, that's, oh, you know what? It's late at night, but that is a high amount of people. What is it, like 130, 135, 140, something like that, of these people out of the 219 say yes, they are addicted to social media. And it's kind of scary to think about that, because addiction has this negative connotation, because it is something very bad. If you're addicted to something, it's not necessarily a good thing. It means that you can't go without it. And that's, where a lot of us are. I know that me personally, if I were to delete all of my social media apps, I would be like fiending for those apps back, because that's how I communicate with the world, and that's how I like check up and stay entertained and everything like that. And so it is an addiction, and it's crazy that it's gotten to this point. Now we're going to talk about depression and anxiety. So that like we talked about earlier, there's a very strong correlation between social media and depression and anxiety. We don't know if it's causation, like we already talked about, but there's research that backs that people that use social media the most compared to the least are 53% more likely to be more depressed. And then you can see the source right there. Moving on. We're going to start talking about the effects. Okay, so one major effect that we can see from these negative psychological effects of social media is an increased rate in suicide. So compared to before social media was created, you see a constant trend upwards in the amount of suicides that go on. And researchers say that, they think that social media definitely, basically pushes suicidal thoughts more so than before, because, there's so much cyberbullying. Kids seek so much validation from social media, and when they don't get it, it sends them into the depression state and things of that sort. And so that really skyrockets the suicide rates. Moving on, we can see another effect of social media, negative effect, would be things such as mass shootings. And so it's been really a real uphill climb for these mass shootings. As social media has gotten more popular, so have mass shootings, because social media just sends around, graphic content and stuff like that. And so kids can, number one, get ideas, and number two, get cyberbullied. So before, whenever, in our parents' generation, these parents would go to school, and yeah, maybe they would get bullied at school, but whenever they would come home, they would oftentimes have a safe place and they could relax and be by themselves, right? Well, our generation, you can go to school and get bullied, and then you go home and you have the same thing. You open up your phone and boom, all of a sudden you're still getting hate online, and people are taking jabs at you, left and right, all 24 hours of the day. So I think that is a major effect of all these negative effects, psychological, and as we can see, like tangible, mass shootings and suicide. It's very scary. Lastly, I have my references. So yeah, social media is bad, addictive, and negative to psychological well-being. Bye.